In this video, we're going to look at a normalization exercise based on some Beatles songs on albums. So as in normalization, you always start with some table and then you ask uh, procedurally what tables made up, got us here, made up this table. So the table may be the result of some joins or something like that. So what table, like if this data were being presented to you, what database would we make around it? Or if this came from a database, what was the table structure? Okay, so step number one is to put the data that you find into the first normal form. And in the first normal form, you can't have sort of lists, multi-valued fields like we see here in the writers field for please please me, or for I saw her standing there. So that's the first thing we're going to do is flatten the file. So I'm going to take these, copy this stuff, and just make it a separate row. There we go. And so here we are repeating this information. And a hard day's night, and I love her. One more. I'm just copying and pasting, flattening the file. So now I have no cells with lists in them. Now I might decide that I should separate first name and last name. I'll probably introduce a writer ID. There are things I want to do, but at least now I don't have multi-valued fields. I don't have any lists. Okay. So now I'm in the first normal form, and I want to, for this table, identify a primary key. Now, the item that was in a list, in this case, writers. So I repeated all this information. Please, please me, 1963. I saw her standing there, 255. That got repeated. The only thing that changed from record 1 to record 2 in this new flattened file was the writer. And so we know we need to serve the purpose of a primary key to uniquely identify our record in this table. We know that the writer must be part of it. And I'm going to say, I don't want the writer's name. I'm going to introduce a writer ID. So I know I need writer ID. So now is writer ID. So then we know we need that. Then after we know what we need, we ask, is that enough or not enough? So that's not enough because here we see John Lennon and John Lennon again, Paul McCartney and Paul McCartney again. So we know that these two Paul McCartney records are not uniquely identified by just the writer. So we're going to need something about the song. And this is our age-old question in database. What's the relationship between writer and song? A writer creates many songs. A song may be composed by many writers. So we had Lennon and McCartney contributing to I Saw Her Standing There. And then we saw McCartney contributing to I Saw Her Standing There and I Love Her. So it was a many to many. The data between writer and song in the example data is explicitly many to many. There's no way around it. We're going to need both of these for the as part of the primary key, and also because it's a many-to-many relationship. And we know in databases when we have a many-to-many relationship, then we're probably going to end up with a bridge table between like a writer and a song entity or tables. Okay. What else? So we have writers, we have a song, and now sort of the other thing floating around here is an album. And so again, we ask the question, what is the relationship? I'm going to say song to album. So if there's a relationship between writer and album, I'm going to get it through song, I'll say. So I'm interested in the song album relationship. And it depends here. Depends if a song is on one and only one album, or if we're talking about the song or the album that the song premieres on, or can a song be on more than one album? It depends which albums. Again, do you mean the premiere of the song, or do you mean are you including, say, a greatest hits albums? So the Beatles had some greatest hit album, and I think Yellow Submarine. There was a Yellow Submarine album that repeated some songs from that were on other albums. So if we are doing a greatest hits, then considering greatest hits albums in our collection of data, or adding the Yellow Submarine album, then the relationship between song and albums would be many to many. A song may be on more than one album. An album certainly has many songs. We might decide that we're not going to do consider Yellow Submarine and the greatest hits albums, and we're only going to worry about songs that are sort of appearing for the first time on a Beatles album, and then it would be a one-to-many relationship. Then an album may have many songs, but a song only premieres on one album. And if we're thinking of it that way, then it's a one-to-many relationship, and then we would not need like an album ID as part of our primary key, because then it would the song ID from the song, we could look up what album that it appeared on. So we sort of have our choice here depending on what it is we are picking out of our database. So I'll probably just do both and sort of show that I could get two different answers. So one answer, I need, so if song, not saying if song album is one to many, I don't want it as part of my primary key. If song album is many to many, I do want it. Okay. So I might have sort of two answers. Now I'm just looking for, so that's my answer so far. And I kind of have two answers going on depending on just how you answer that particular question. Now we're looking for dependencies. Okay, so I'm going to say I've introduced some IDs along the way. So I'm going to say the album ID is going to give you an album title. I'm going to say that year was the year of the album. So I'm going to say that. So that first column, I'm going to pretend now is album title, and I've introduced an album year. An album ID, I have an album year, I have an album title. I'm going to have a song ID giving me the song title. That's what I want. So for me, the arrow means is determinant of. The album ID is determinant of the album title and the year, because from the album ID, if I have it, I can look it up. The song ID is determinant of the song title. And now I have to think about the other thing I have. The next thing I have up there is length. Pardon me. And now I have to think, like, if the song's only on one album, then I can believe that the song belongs to that the length belongs to the song. If I'm putting the song on more than one album, I have to ask the question, uh, did I like re-record the song to put on the new album, or did I just put the old recording on an album? If I re-recorded the song, then the length may change a bit, and then length would not belong to song alone, but would belong to the song album combination. All right, I've already made it more complicated than I needed to, so I'm just going to imagine that I record once. If I put it on more than one album, so be it, but the length belongs to the song. Let's not go completely crazy here. Okay. And so, and then what is my other dependence here? That the writer ID, and let's imagine we'll do writer first name, last name. Maybe we'll break it up like that. Okay. So I have some dependencies. Now, are they partials? Okay. Um, well, I have writer song no matter what. So writer and song are definitely. So I'm going to have to break this down into two answers again. If song album, what did I do first? Is one to many. If song album is one to many, I had writer and song. And so the writer and the song were partials, but the album was not. And if the song is many to many, if the song album is many to many, then all three were partials. Okay. So again, we always have this important question about the nature of the relationship, one to many, many to many, and that determines things along the way, both in in our final answer, the decomposition, but also in our answer to the questions like what's the primary key and is it partial and so on. Okay. So then we're going to have this thing here now twice. Come on. Let me copy it again. Control V, copy, paste. Here we go. So if the song album is one, then I'm going to have a song, and I'm only going to second normal form. So I'm going to have a song and a writer. And the song ID is going to determine the song length and that. And then we know that songwriter was a many to many. So we know we're going to need a bridge table. Okay. And what do we need? So, but the album information does not get split off. If the song album is one to many, the album stuff does not get. And so I'm going to put here album ID and album title. And I'm going to keep this all in song because I'm only going to second normal form, and I'd have to go to third normal form to pull off album and a year, album year. So the album information stays in song if song album is one to many, because I'm only going to second normal form, and I'm only breaking up the partial functional dependencies I find. So I know I need song, I know I need writer, I know I need songwriter, but I'm not pulling off album if I'm only working to second normal form. Now down here, if songwriter is many to many, then it was part of my primary key. Where's my first question? If that was also a many to many, writer to song, we had no choice. It was many to many. It was reflected in the data. Album song, not in the data we saw, but in other data we talk about, we might say that it's many to many. Then we need all three. Then all the functional dependencies are partials. So as we work to a second normal form, they're all partials, they're all being pulled out. So we're going to have an album. We're going to have a song. We're going to have a writer. And then we know song and writer were many to many, so we needed a bridge table. And we also know that song album in this version is many to many. And so we're going to need a bridge table for that as well. So we have album where the ID is telling us the album title and the year. The song ID is telling us the song title and song length. And the writer ID telling us the writer's first name and last name. Okay, so we had no choice with writer in this example data. We had no choice between writer song. That was definitely a many-to-many relationship. So I definitely needed song as part of my primary key and writer as part of my primary key. We had another relationship between song and album with the data that is showing. That might be one to many, or we might imagine if we include greatest hits albums, etc., that it might be many to many. So if we answer that question that it was one to many, our answer here is writer song ID. If we think it's many to many, then we have writer song album. We identify our dependencies, and then our dependencies partials or not, because we're working to second normal form. The album ID is not part of the primary key under the first scenario, so it was just song and writer. Whereas if song album is many to many, then album was part of the primary key, and so that dependence is a partial. And now we're decomposing to the second normal form where we take out the partial dependencies. So if song of album is one to many, we have a song, we have a writer, and we have the song writer bridge table because songwriter is many to many. And the album information stayed in the song. If song album is many to many, we have album, pull that off because it's a partial, song, pull it off, it's a partial, pull writer off, it's a partial. And then we need the song writer relationship, which is going to be a bridge table because it's a many to many relationship. And the song album is going to be a bridge table because it's a many to many relationship. So that is at least two possible answers, and probably the answers for this working to second normal form. If I worked to third normal form, then album would get pulled off as a transitive thing, but I would not have a bridge table because it's still one to many relationship. So the album information could be pulled out even if song album is one to many if I work to the third normal form. But this exercise was only working to the second normal form. So these are sort of my two answers. And depending on the answer to the question about what is the nature of the song album relationship. All right. Thanks for your attention.